I want to bring in Karl Rove right now. Karl, a lot to go through. More reaction on this. We're told the president's going to have a statement that's going to release any moment now, so stand by for that. There is one headline from the statement. Reuters is quoting it as saying that the president does not know whether the Supreme Court draft on abortion is genuine or reflects the final decision. That's the first comment we got on that. Here is another comment. This goes back a little more than a year, February of 2020. Then Joe Biden on abortion.
A woman does have a right to choose. I would, in fact, if they rule it to be unconstitutional, I will send to the United States Congress, and it will pass, I believe, a bill that legislates Roe v. Wade adjusted by Casey. It's a woman's right to do that, period.
Okay, that was from February 2020. The statement's long, Karl. Let's get your reaction first, and then we'll go through this together. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, this is a momentous act. Somebody broke the seal of secrecy of the Supreme Court and took a draft opinion, apparently, and released it to a member of the press. So it's hard to remember when that ever happened. There's a case in 1919 in which a clerk took two opinions and shared them with people in order to profit off of the results of those opinions. But this is pretty extraordinary. Second of all, look, the opinion to the 68 pages long basically says there's no constitutional right to abortion. This issue ought to be left up to the states and the elected representatives of the people in state legislatures to decide. And so, the President of the United States may say he wants to send a law through Congress, but I doubt that there are going to be 60 votes for it in the Senate. What the court is if the opinion is correct and if the opinion represents the majority, it's saying return this to the states to be decided by the people through their elected representatives at that level. And but this is going to be a big issue, and the Democrats are going to fan it. We need to put it in context. If you look at it, in the most recent Quinnipiac poll, it was tied for the 9th most important issue: inflation, immigration, election laws, Russia, Ukraine, climate, healthcare, racial inequality, gun violence. All were higher on the scale than at 4%. Abortion. Now, that number will grow. Just simply talking about it and fanning the flames about it will make it go up the scale, but it ain't going to be anywhere near these items up here at the top, in my opinion.
We have a Fox News poll show that Democrats wanted Roe v. Wade to stand at 72%, Republicans at 48%. How might an issue like this affect the midterms? We have the Ohio primary happening right now, and that's the reason the nation is watching that is because there's such a close divide there in the Senate, and it's an open seat with Rob Portman retiring.
Well, look, I count me somewhat skeptical on this. I do think that it is going to matter to a group of voters, both pro-life and pro-choice voters. There are going to be elements of those two groups that are going to be revved up one way or the other on this issue. On the other hand, this is not the issue on which most elections are going to be decided. And also, look, Americans have a nuanced perspective of this. The polls show that Americans generally believe there ought to be, a woman ought to have a right to abortion. But even in, for example, one of the latest polls, I think it was even a Wall Street Journal poll, 48% of the electorate supported what was in the Mississippi law, that is to say, a ban on abortion after 15 weeks. So we live in the age of the sonogram, and that's fundamentally changed people's attitude about this. They find it personally repugnant, even if they believe that a woman ought to have the right to make her own decision. But the lines keep getting tougher and tougher on abortion. The idea that nearly half the American people would say no abortions after 15 weeks is, I think, pretty amazing given where we were 15 and 20 years ago, when an unrestricted right to abortion seemed to be more popular than that.
This is already political, as you would very well imagine, Karl. I've had a chance to read the president's statement. Toward the end, it falls on our nation's elected officials at all levels of government to protect a woman's right to choose. I mean, that's clearly an implication for next November. It will fall on voters to elect pro-choice officials in November. That's a quote now. We need more pro-choice senators and a pro-choice majority in the House to adopt legislation that codifies Roe, which I will work to pass and sign into law. I know it's hot off the press, so to speak, Karl, but your reaction on that statement?
Well, if they're going to try and make political hay out of this, first of all, again, let's wait and see what the decision actually is when it comes down in June or July. But second of all, look, they've run a risk here. Yes, they can go out and energize abortion voters who want to keep a woman's right to choose to be unlimited or unrestricted and want it left at the federal level, not decided at the state level. But they run the risk of looking out of touch with Americans who believe that the inflation that they're paying at the pump and at the grocery store, the issue of illegal immigration across our southern border, foreign policy with the war in Ukraine, that these are all more important issues. And the administration has had a problem in the past in dealing with those issues by sounding out of touch. Oh, inflation's transitory, it's going away, don't worry about it. Immigration, the border is all, don't worry, we're doing a very effective job there. And if they come into that kind of an environment saying the most important issue in this election is a woman's unrestricted right to an abortion, that they run the risk of sounding out of touch with the concerns of ordinary Americans.
All right, Karl Rove, thank you. It was a big day. I'm sure we'll be seeing you again as Ohio votes in its primary.
Thank you, Karl.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.